All right, so we'll all start off sitting in a comfortable position on your mat. And let's begin with right foot in front of the other. So if you're sitting with your legs crossed, then you kind of do one foot in front of this. We'll put your right foot in front. And you can kind of space them so that your right foot is a little bit ahead of you, or you can stack it up on top of your left foot, whichever feels more comfortable. Once you find your position, let your hands rest on your lap and let your eyes close. And we'll begin off with a little bit of mindful breathing. So just inhaling and exhaling without forcing the breath in or pushing the air out, just kind of seeing what happens with your breath when you breathe. And see if you can observe the physical traits of your breath. See if you can see what happens to the muscles in your neck when you inhale, what happens to the muscles in your chest, maybe notice how your lower belly starts to expand when you take in a breath. And any of these little observations that you make with the physical aspect of your breathing kind of brings your mind into your body's time, which is always in the moment. It's always in the present. So then gradually starting to put a little bit more intention into your breath. So inhaling a little bit deeper. So your belly starts to expand when you inhale. And then as you exhale, tuck your belly button into your spine and up to your heart. So begin to push out all the air. See what happens to the musculature of your torso and breath when you start to actively breathe. And then we'll bring movement into your breath. So inhaling, raising both hands up over your head. And then exhale, reaching your fingertips out to the sides and trying to meter your breath until your lungs are empty by the time your fingers find the floor. And then make that connection and push out all the air at the bottom. Again, inhale, reaching both hands up to the sky. And slowly exhale, reaching both hands out to the sides. All the way until your lungs are empty and your hands find the floor. Pushing out all the air. Last time, inhale, raising both hands up. And this time, as we exhale, we're going to fold over at the waist, down into an easy forward fold. Walking your hands out in front of you, letting your forehead drop down towards the floor, or just letting your chin rest on your chest. Just kind of dropping down, taking in a deep breath, long exhale, so your upper body kind of softens over the mat. Then slowly walking both hands over to the right side, just about as far as feels comfortable. So you're draping your body over your right leg, taking a deep breath. And then exhale to soften over your right thigh, letting your forehead drop down towards the floor. When you're ready, slowly making your way all the way over to the left side, walking your hands until you can go comfortably. Taking a deep breath and then exhale to soften over your left thigh. Maybe you're ready, slowly making your way back towards center. One last time, dropping your forehead down towards the floor. And then gently walking yourself back up. And then inhale, raising both hands up over your head. And then exhale, hands down by your sides. So you got your right leg in front or on top of left leg. We're just going to switch the placement. So now your left leg is in front or your left leg is stacked on top. And maybe it feels a little bit uncomfortable because naturally we kind of go for the easier side first. So maybe your right side is your easier side, who knows? But again, inhaling, lengthening through your spine, reaching both hands up over your head. And then exhale, reaching your fingers out to the sides until your lungs are empty and your hands find the floor. Pushing out all the air at the bottom. And inhale, raising both hands up over your head. And sipping in a little bit of air at the top. And then exhale, reaching both hands out to the sides until your lungs are empty. Pushing out all the air at the bottom. Time inhaling, raising both hands up. And then exhale, folding over at the waist, down into an easy forward fold. Taking in a deep breath, nice long exhale, and just kind of seeing how far into your lungs your breath goes when you're all folded forwards and there's no room for your belly to move forwards. Slowly walking both hands over to the right side, just about as far as feels comfortable. Taking in a deep breath, long exhale, softening over your right leg. And slowly walking your hands over to the left side, taking your time to get there. Taking in a deep breath and softening your heart over your left thigh, letting your head drop down towards the floor. And again, just trying to bring that awareness to your breath. One last time, slowly making your way back towards the center. Maybe dropping your forehead down towards the ground a little bit closer. Whenever you're ready, slowly pushing yourself all the way back up. Inhale, raising both hands up over your head. And then exhale, hands down by your sides. From here, we're going to transition onto your hands and knees. So with your knees underneath your hips and your fingertips spread wide, your hands underneath your shoulders, we're going to come into cat and cow. So just going at your own breath here. I'm going to give a few cues, but pretty much just listen to your body. Inhale to look up, dropping your belly down towards the ground. And then exhale, curving your spine up towards the ceiling as you kind of scoop your chin down towards your belly button. Again, moving at your own breath, just as long as you're moving with the breath work. We open up your spinal column and your shoulders. And once you start linking movement with breath, ta-da, you're doing yoga. So just taking a few passes and kind of feeling how it relates to your hips. So when you really kind of like scoop your tailbone underneath you, and you're arching your spine up. Then as you drop your belly down, you really kind of like tilt that tailbone towards the crown of your head. And whenever you've had enough of that, we'll come into a neutral spine. If you need to do a few more, you can go for it. But from here, we're going to push your heart away from the floor. And then reaching your right arm out in front of you, so your right biceps is in line with your right ear. And then pushing your left heel straight back behind you. You're going to push it against the wall. Taking a deep breath, and then on the exhale, connect elbow to knee under your body. And then inhale to extend, pushing your heel and your fingertips far away from you. Exhale to connect, again trying to make that connection. Inhale to extend, reaching out as far as you can. One more time to connect. One more time to extend. And then coming back down onto all fours. Just take a second to settle, adjust, do whatever you need to do. And then reaching your left arm out in front of you, left biceps in line with your left ear, and taking the gaze straight down to the floor. And then pushing your right heel straight back behind you. And you're flexing your foot, so like you're trying to actually push the flat of your foot against the wall. Taking a deep breath, and then on the exhale, connect elbow to knee under your body. Inhale to extend, reaching out as far as you can. Exhale to connect. Inhale to extend, maintain that length. One more time to connect. One more time, reaching out and coming back onto all fours. Bring your knees out to either side of the mat with your big toes touching. You're going to come all the way back into your child's pose. Walking your fingertips out in front of you and letting your forehead drop down towards the floor. Holding here just for 2 breaths. And when you're ready, slowly making your way all the way back up onto all fours. Now, for those of us lucky enough to have seen a dog pee on a fire hydrant, we're going to pretty much try and mimic that movement. And I swear this is still yoga. So we're going to bring that leg out to the side, like you're going to pee on the fire hydrant, and then straighten that leg back behind you, and then bring your knee to your elbow. So you're making a big circle with your hip, right? Raise the leg up out to the side, you're peeing on the fire hydrant, you're marking your territory, leg goes back behind you, and then you bring your knee to your hip. So what we're doing here is we're working all the way through that range of motion, your hip complex, which is the ball and socket joint. So it kind of loves this action. So go out to the side, to the back, bring your knee to your elbow. One more time. And then coming back onto all fours. We can do the same thing on the other side. Like we're lucky enough to have a fire hydrant on the other side of our yoga mats. So bring your left leg up, taking a wee on the fire hydrant, the leg straight back behind you, and then drawing your knee to your elbow. We're doing 5 rotations total. You kind of go at your own pace here. Like if you find one part of the stretch where you're like, oh, wow, that feels so good, you can kind of pause there for a moment. If you have an area that kind of hurts, it's like, oh, wow, that feels really tight, kind of explore that. Jim, this is a good one for you, especially when you bring your leg out to the side and feel what's going on in the musculature in your hip complex. We'll do one more time. Fire hydrant, your leg back behind you, knee to your elbow. Once you've all had enough of that, we're going to curl under your toes behind you, pressing your fingertips firmly into the mat. We're going to come into our first downward dog of the class. So for the first downward dog, you can kind of do whatever little organic movements you need to do here. So maybe pedaling your heels or rolling your shoulders or shaking your head. If you're having trouble loosening up, you can always make horse sounds. Which I swear helps. Creating a little pedaling motion with your feet if you haven't already. We're going to slowly walk your feet to your hands. We all find ourselves in a nice, easy forward fold. Letting your head and your arms hang down. Just like rubbing your hips side to side. Like if you had a big sponge on your butt, you're going to try and wash the wall behind you. And bending at the knees, curling all the way up to standing. Inhale, raising both hands up over your head. And then exhale, hands down by your sides. Cool. Inhale, raising both hands up. Exhale to fold down into your forward fold. Inhale, lengthen out through the crown of your head, so flattening along your back. And then exhaling, we're just going to step your right foot back into a runner stretch. So giving a little rock front and back here, just to kind of open up that right hip flexor. Maybe pushing that right heel away from you. So you can kind of create that length through the hip. Take a look over one shoulder so you can see the world behind you. I moved over to the brick wall, so there's not a lot for me to check out. But we'll look over the other shoulder anyways, see what's going on. All looks good. So from here, we're going to drop your back knee down to the mat and then flatten the top of your foot on the mat. And then come up to rest. So you can put your hands on that front thigh. And then from here, we kind of drive that knee forwards to keep that stretch going really strong. And if you just want to stay here, you can stay here. If you want to come out at any point, you can rest in child's pose. If you want to take a step further, we're going to bring your right hand behind your head and then flare that elbow out to the side. Kind of lengthens all the way up through into your armpit. As we inhale, you're just going to arch back so your heart gets to look up towards the ceiling. So drive that left knee forwards. And then easing out of it just a little bit, you're going to take that left hand and try and slide it all the way down to the floor to touch the mat on the other side. And take the gaze up towards the ceiling. Whenever you're ready, slowly come out. Come all the way back out of it the same way that we got into it. And make your way all the way back into your downward facing dog. Taking your time to get there. And just kind of pedaling through your heels. Again, just kind of opening up your hips. And then walking your feet to your hands. And all the way back into that forward fold. Inhale, lengthen out through the crown of your head, flattening along your spine. And then exhale, fold down a little bit deeper. Inhale, coming all the way up to standing, raising both hands up over your head. Exhale, hands down by your sides. And inhale, raising both hands up. Exhale, folding over at the waist, down into your forward fold. Inhale, lengthening out through your spine, so you're just trying to flatten your back to make that stretch in your hamstring a little bit better. And then exhale, we're going to step your left foot back behind you into runner stretch. Pausing there for a moment, giving a little rock front and back. And maybe just observing, like, oh wow, does this hip flexor feel tighter than my other one? Take a look over one shoulder. You can see the world behind you, just kind of noticing how that changes the stretch. Take a look over the other shoulder. Then whenever you're ready, dropping your back knee down to the mat and then uncurling that back foot so the top of your foot is on the floor. And then coming up and letting your hands rest on your knee. So again, you can kind of play around with this one, right? Just kind of listening to your body coming into it as deep as you want to. And if at any point you want to come out, you can rest in child's pose while meet there. So you can drive that right knee forwards to make the stretch a little bit deeper in that left hip flexor. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to bring your left hand up behind your head. And then flare that left elbow out to the side. So you inhale, you kind of look back so your heart gets to check out towards the ceiling. So you're coming into a gentle back bend. It's like your left hand is kind of supporting your head as you come into the back bend. Back up to center, easing out of it just a little bit and sliding that right hand down towards the floor. And trying to see if we can make contact without falling over. And taking the gaze up towards the ceiling, see if you notice anything cool up there. And slowly coming out. Coming out all the way the same way that we got into it. Gradually making your hands back down towards the floor. Walking yourself all the way back out into your downward facing dog. Taking a second to pedal through your heels. From here, we're going to raise your right foot all the way up behind you. And then try to open up at the hips a little bit. So you drop your right heel down towards the crown of your head. Rolling your right ankle, wiggling your right toes. And then stepping your right foot through in between your hands, low lunge. And dropping your back heel down to the mat at about a 45-degree angle. So you're planting the outside edge of your back foot along the floor. Lengthen through your spine and then floating all the way up into your warrior one. So as you reach, your pinkies are reaching up towards the ceiling. You're driving that right knee forwards as you're pushing the outside edge of your back foot into the mat. Always trying to square off your hips to the front of the room. It's like you're squeezing from the left bum cheek. 2 more breaths here. And then opening up into your warrior 2. Reaching both hands out in opposite direction. And just taking a moment to see that the heel of your front foot is in line with the arch of your back foot. And then driving that right knee forwards to come into the pose a little bit deeper as you keep extending your hands in opposite directions. Holding here for 2 more breaths. On an exhale, we're going to drop your left hand down towards your left thigh and reaching your right arm over your head behind you. So you drive that right knee forward still. You can let that left hand rest on your thigh, or you can wrap your left hand around behind your lower back to find your right hip crease and take your gaze up towards the ceiling. On an exhale, we're going to bring your right elbow to your right knee and reaching your left arm straight up towards the ceiling. And then slowly bringing your biceps to your ear. So you're extending those left fingertips towards the front of the room as you roll your left shoulder blade over the right, and your heart kind of gets to look up towards the ceiling. You can take the gaze up towards the ceiling too, see what's going on up there. Taking the gaze down towards the floor and keeping your front leg really strong. You're going to reach your bottom arm underneath to grab onto your giant golden orb of happiness. Extend it up to the ceiling and towards the back of the room, keeping your front knee bent. Extend it towards the front of the room, reaching as far forwards as you can. One more time to the back of the room. And then cartwheeling both hands down, either side of your front foot. And walking yourself all the way out into your plank. And then curling over your toes and coming right back up into your downward facing dog. And just pausing for a moment to appreciate the difference from one side to the other after doing that little warrior sequence. Raising your left heel all the way up behind you, and then opening up the hips and trying to drop that left heel down towards the crown of your head. Wiggling your left toes, rolling your left ankle. And then stepping your left foot through in between your hands for a low lunge. And then dropping your back heel down to the ground at about a 45-degree angle. Lengthen through your spine and then floating all the way up into your warrior 1. So pressing the outside edge of your back foot into the mat, trying to drive your hips, squaring off your hips towards the front of the room. So you inhale, your pinkies reach up a little bit higher. As you exhale, you settle into the pose a little bit deeper, all the while keeping your core engaged. You're always scooping your belly button up towards your spine. Opening up into your warrior 2, reaching both hands out in either direction. Just taking a moment to make that little adjustment so the heel of your front foot is in line with the arch of your back foot. Then taking the gaze over the ring finger of your left hand and driving that front knee forwards just a little bit deeper. As you inhale, your spine gets a little bit taller. As you exhale, you're always trying to maintain that length from fingertip to fingertip. 2 more breaths here. Whenever you're ready, dropping your back hand to your back leg, reaching your top arm over your head behind you. Taking the gaze up towards the ceiling. Again, you can let that right arm kind of rest on that right thigh, or you can wrap your right hand behind your lower back to find that hip crease. So both good. On an exhale, we're going to bring your left elbow to your left knee. Then reaching your right arm up towards the ceiling, And then transitioning bicep to ear and rolling your right shoulder blade over the left so your heart gets to look up towards the ceiling. Taking your gaze up there too. And if your balance feels a little wonky here, just think about that back leg pushing into the mat to give you some strength and extra stability. From here, we're going to take the gaze down towards the floor. And keeping that front knee bent, we're going to reach your bottom arm underneath, grabbing onto your big old ball of joy. Extend it up into the ceiling towards the back of the room, stretching through your side body. One more time towards the front of the room, reaching as far forward as you can. One more time to the back of the room. And cartwheel, both hands down, either side of your front foot. Walk yourself back to your plank. And we'll lower down knees, chest and chin, all the way onto your belly, keeping your elbows tight into your sides, your shoulders drawing away from your ears. And then pressing the tops of your feet into the mat. You're going to strengthen through the lower back to raise your heart up off the floor. As you draw your shoulders away from you and keep your elbows in tight for baby cobra. Pushing off your hands and knees all the way back into your child's pose. Opening up through your lats. And then curling under your toes to come into your downward facing dog. And in this downward dog, we're going to push your heels down to the mat behind you and try and push the backs of your knees to the wall behind you. All the while your tailbone is trying to get to the wall behind you. It's like there's something really awesome on that wall behind you. And your whole body is just longing to be there, but your hands are like, nope. Ready, slowly walking your feet to your hands. We'll all find ourselves in our forward fold. Inhale, lengthen out through the crown of your head, flattening your back. Exhale, fold down a little bit deeper. And then inhale, coming all the way up to standing, raising both hands up to the sky. And then exhale, hands down by your sides. Cool. Here we're going to step your right foot back about 2 feet. And if you have a block or a prop or something that kind of raises the floor up a little bit, you like using that for intense leg stretch, you can grab one. But in general, so you're on like a skis or a little railroad track, your feet are that far apart. We're going to find that hip bone, your iliac crest. Inhale, drawing your elbows back towards each other. And then exhale, folding over where that hip crease is, keeping both legs as straight as can be. Maintain that length through your spine. Folding, folding, folding. You're like, oh wow, I feel a great stretch in my hamstring. Isn't that awesome? Once you can't go down any deeper with the straight back, you can release your hips and come all the way down, letting your hands rest on either your leg or the floor or a prop if you have one. And letting your forehead just drop down towards that front left knee. This is a great place to take in a deep breath with a noisy exhale, so let's all do that together. Inhaling deeply. Letting that head drop down a little bit deeper. A lot of people don't give exasperated sighs enough credit, but I swear by them. So just inhaling deeply here, and as you create that space through the deep inhalation, inhale, you kind of fill it in with the stretch through the exhale. Two more breaths here. Just letting your forehead soften down a little bit more. If your face is kind of tensed here, just soften all the muscles in your face. And then to come out of intense leg stretch, we're going to lengthen out through the spine. Bring your hands to your hips, drawing your elbows back towards each other and lead all the way back up to standing. We're just going to switch the placement of your feet. So stepping your right foot forwards and your left foot back. Squaring off your hips to the front of the mat. Finding that as hip bones, getting whatever props you need. Get yourself psychologically prepared for intense leg stretch. Inhale, lengthen through your spine, drawing your elbows back towards each other, and then exhale, folding over at the waist, down into your intense leg stretch. So your back is still straight. You're like, wow, Nolan, this is awesome. Feeling a great stretch in my hamstring. Can't go any further. You can release your hips and slowly curl over your spine. So let your forehead rest down on your right knee. And if it's not quite there, you just imagine that it is. Again, let's all take in a deep breath with a noisy exhale. Just letting that upper body soften through that big old exhale. We'll stay here for about 3 more long, slow, deep breaths. Try and keep those legs as straight as can be. And the muscles on your face soft and relaxed. When coming out of it, the same way that we got into it, lengthening through your spine, drawing your hands to your hips, bring your elbows back towards each other and leading with the heart to float all the way back up to standing. We'll stand both feet together. Just taking a second to rock front and back, heels to toes. You can kind of notice that there's one point on your heels where you lose your balance and you fall backwards. Then there's another point where you dig your toes into the floor to keep you from falling forwards. So slowing down that rock until we find that exact center where you're like, okay, this is about as balanced as a person can be. We're going to push your left foot down into the floor. You're like, and draw your right foot up into tree pose. So tree pose can be heel, your right heel to your left ankle, drawing your knee out to the side, so you're squeezing from that glute knee. Bring the arch of your foot to your calf, also keeping your knee out to the side, or bring the heel all the way up into your inner thigh. All these are good positions. Once you find your position, bring your hands into a prayer in front of your heart, and focus your gaze on your drishti, that thing that doesn't move. As you inhale, your spine gets a little bit tall, and then as you exhale, you tuck your belly button into your spine, so you really strengthen out through that lower core. Opening up the branches of your tree and sinking your shoulders down away from your ears. And if you want to try Lord Dance, what we're going to do is drop your right hand down behind you to hook onto that right ankle. In this position, we're going to push your ankle into your hand. So just kind of tilt forward and reach that left arm forwards. And slowly releasing to come out. Letting hands and feet all come down. Feet come down to the floor, hands come down to your sides. Take a second to pedal out through your feet. Wiggle your hips. Do a little rock front and back. Then we're going to start pushing your right foot down into the floor. So we do that to establish, like, okay, all the load is going to go on this leg. So this hip is to really kind of get to work. Once you establish that, you can bring your left heel to your right ankle. Arch of your foot to your calf. Or heel all the way up into your inner thigh to find your tree on your other side. Once you find your position, bring your hands into a prayer in front of your heart and lengthen through your spine. Gradually opening up the branches of your tree and sinking your shoulders down away from your ears. Then if you feel like trying out Lord Dance, drop your left hand down to your side, find a hook on that ankle. Then we're going to push your ankle into your hand to create that little back bend. Bring your thumb and middle finger together. Slowly releasing to come out. and everything floats down as graceful as can be to the floor. Great. Coming back to front and center on your mat. Inhale, raising both hands up over your head. And then exhale to fold over at the waist down into your forward fold. Inhale, lengthen out through the crown of your head. And then exhale, walking yourself out to your plank and pausing at the high plank position. So keeping your fingertips pressing into the mat and your heels away from you and the crown of your head in front of you. Having that nice strong core, holding the high plank for another 5 minutes. Okay, not 5 minutes. You're just going to curl over your toes to come into your downward facing dog. Raising your right foot all the way up behind you. You're going to float your right knee to your right elbow, hovering above the ground for a moment, making that connection. Send your heel straight back up behind you. Bring your right knee to your left elbow, crossing under your midline, again making that connection. Send it straight back up behind you. And then bring your knee to your nose. Try and actually kiss your right kneecap. Straight back up behind you. And then folding your right leg through into pigeon pose. So pigeon pose is where your right knee is behind your right wrist. You're trying to create a T-section across the mat, so your right ankle is kind of behind your left wrist. And then we wiggle your left foot back. So your hips get closer down towards the ground. And your leg is more or less in the center of your mat. Once you find your position, inhale, lengthen through your spine. And then exhale, walking yourself down to let your forehead rest on either the floor, or you can stack your hands, let your forehead rest on your hands, or something else. I don't know what you got around you, but the idea here is that your upper body is not working. Your head's not working. I mean, it's working, but it's not exerting itself. Inhale deeply and exhaling completely, and just trying to let all the muscles in your lower back and your hips just kind of soften and relax. See if you can observe which muscles are providing resistance, then imagine them melting like butter on a pan. We'll hold here for 3 more long, slow, deep breaths. And whenever you're ready to come out, we're going to slowly walk yourself all the way back up. Pausing for a moment at the top, take a look over one shoulder, gentle spinal twist. Take a look over the other shoulder. And then slowly, at your own pace, you're going to make your way all the way back into your downward facing dog. Taking your time to get there. Pedaling out one heel, pedaling out the other, and just feeling the difference from one side to the other. Raising your left foot all the way up behind you. We're going to float your left knee to your left elbow, trying to make that contact. Send it straight back up behind you. Bring your left knee to your right elbow, crossing under your midline. Send it straight back up behind you. Bring your left knee to your nose. Try and kiss your left kneecap. Straight back up behind you. And then folding your left leg through into pigeon pose. So again, left knee is kind of behind your left wrist. Left ankle is kind of behind your right wrist. And we just kind of shimmy that right leg back so it's more or less center on the mat. Your hips are close down to the ground once you find your position. Inhale, lengthen through your spine. And then exhale, walking yourself down to let your forehead rest on either the floor or your hands. Again, bringing the attention back to your breath.
So inhale deeply, creating that space in your lower body. And then as you exhale, you kind of let your muscles relax to fill in that space that you just created with your breath. Stay here for 2 more breaths. And then whenever you're ready to come out of it, just going to slowly walk yourself back up, pausing for a moment at the top. Taking a look over one shoulder, gentle spinal twist. Take a look over your other shoulder. Coast is clear, nobody snuck in while you're in pigeon. Thank God. And then rolling over onto your left bum cheek, you're going to bring your right leg all the way around in front of you. And scooting yourself towards the front of the mat, your legs out straight. You're going to move the muscle out of the way until you can find those sits bones, your butt bones, firmly down on the floor. Kind of like wiggle your tush on the ground. And then pushing your heels away from you, and pushing the backs of your knees down into the floor, lengthening through your spine. We're going to inhale, raising both hands up over your head, and then exhale to fold to grab onto those feet. Let your forehead drop down towards your knees. Again, bring the attention back to your breath. So as you inhale deeply, you're creating that space. And then as you exhale, you let your upper body kind of soften to fill in that space. Two more breaths here. Reaching out past your toes, floating all the way back up. Exhale, hands down by your sides, and we'll make your way into laying flat on your back on the mat. So hugging both knees into your chest, give them a little rock side to side, massaging the muscles of your lower back into the floor. And straightening out your right leg along the floor, pushing your right heel away from you. With your right hand, we're going to pull your left knee across your body into a spinal twist. And then reach your left arm out to the side. And take the gaze over your right shoulder. And same thing as with the pigeon here. You're just creating that space. You're inhaling deeply, and then as you exhale, you just kind of let your arm and leg soften. If you're ready, then slowly make your way out to your back again, hugging both knees into your chest. Rock side to side, readjusting. And straighten your left leg along the floor. With your left hand pulling your right knee across your body. Reaching your right arm out to the side. And then taking your gaze over to the left. And if you're ready, slowly making your way out your back one last time. Hugging both knees into your chest. Your forehead up into your knees, making the body like a little itty bitty seed. And then straightening out your arms and legs for your Shavasana pose. Letting your hands rest down by your sides and your feet split out open. Your eyes closed. This is the time where we just try and observe your body in a state of rest. Whatever you observe, you observe. Maybe it's the weight of your body, or your breath, or the blood, or your circulatory system. Whatever it is that you notice, you notice. Slowly begin your fingers and your toes. At your own pace, draw your knees into your chest. Roll over onto your side and push yourself up into a comfortable sitting position. Just kind of finding yourself how we started today's class. Just noticing any changes that might have happened over the last hour in your breath, or your circulation, or the state of your mind. And sending out a silent message of peace and love and wisdom to everyone out there who could use it today. Inhale, raising both hands up over your head. Exhale your hands into a prayer in front of your heart. And we'll close today's practice with a heartfelt namaste. Namaste, everybody. Cool. Thank you all so much for practicing.